Yeah, I have a new website called The Good White People, and I'll talk about that off camera. That you all can look it up. The Good White People. It's a blog with Mark Sims, right? And because I know there are a few of them who really mean well.
Yeah.
But off the top of your head, can you think of some? You know what I'm saying? I mean, there are some.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Let me say this: the system of white supremacy, as it exists, could never have developed as it exists without the assistance of well-meaning white people. Well-meaning white people have always played an integral role in the system of white supremacy, and the tragedy is that they actually do mean well. They are genuinely coming from their heart and genuinely have good intentions, all right? And those white supremacists in charge have recognized this and have figured out a way to utilize them in the context of advancing white supremacist interests. So, for example, those missionaries that they first sent into Africa, so forth and so on, for the most part, these were genuinely well-meaning white people who actually, regardless of the fact that they went there to spread their religion and so forth and so on, they went there with honorable intentions, all right? But as a result, the colonial government is telling them, well, look, we're going to sponsor you to go to this place and to set up your church and set up your school and blah, 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 blah. In return, we want to know what the nature of relationships are with the particular ethnic group that you're talking about versus their neighbors around them. We want to know what kind of natural resources they have, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when they decide to come in with the military, now the white missionaries have a choice. You can side with us or you can stay with them and get killed along with them. All right? They have always used well-meaning, good-intentioned white people have always been a major component in that system of white supremacy, and black people have to develop the political savvy to be able to make distinctions between honestly well-meaning white person and a well-meaning white person who's being used by white supremacists to further white supremacist interests and may or may not be conscious of the fact that they're being used. All right, but the fact that you're not conscious that you're being used doesn't mean you ain't being used. It just means you're unaware of it.
Yeah, let me close out. We got about 7 minutes left. That's one thing. I'm going to try my best to try to form, not because I want to be liked by them. I'm just trying to get a broader conversation here on the TV show. Trying to find some white liberals who are willing to have that conversation about institutional racism and how it affects all the people of color and affects white folks in this country. Are they ready for that?
You have some, like I actually have a piece that I use in my class, and I never thought this would actually happen, but this is a piece called White Supremacy Culture that was developed by some liberal white people that took an honest look at white behavior and white racism and actually came out with a very good document that I actually use in my class. And I never thought I was going to say this, but it is what it is. If it's good, it's good. It's just like, I had to admit I like the way Tina Marie sings. The fact that she's white. If she's good, you're good.
She good. Yeah.
So it's the same thing.
And we enter that because when people watch the show, they hear me talk. Because I start sounding like the son of Malcolm X or whatnot. And that scares white folks and scares Negroes too. But I'm not going to hurt nobody. We're not against anybody. We're just trying to make our neighborhoods better.
Well, I think a lot of people construe being pro-black with being anti-white. And one doesn't really have anything to do with the other. I don't hate white people. I don't have a personal beef with white people. I don't like white supremacist behavior, and I'm willing to fight against that kind of behavior to the death. All right? But it's not a personal kind of thing. And I think that we simply need to develop the wherewithal to be able to, on the one hand, make a distinction between personalized behavior versus something that people are simply going along with. In the same way that the majority of black people in this country have been had a falsified history and have been miseducated about black people's contribution to the world, white people have been equally miseducated and given falsified information. All right, so that they believe what they believe based on what they've been taught. Now, the fact that what they've been taught is wrong, is two left feet, that's a whole nother story. All right. Bottom line is, we need to learn how to look out for our own best interests. We don't need to be anti anybody. We need to be pro-black. And whatever we need to do to advance our specific interest is what we need to do. And if that means becoming in conflict with somebody else, so be it. We're going to have to deal with it from there.
In the last 2 minutes, we got to stress this, especially with our boys and our girls, especially our boys. They are really still getting brainwashed and beat down. The African American, the young African American man with no education and no skill is doomed in this society. Doomed.
Absolutely.
How can we wake these sisters up, these young sisters, and they 35-year-old grandmother, the grandmother, to say, you got a boy, you got to protect this young man. This system of white supremacy is destroy them. Either it's going to tell them, turn them, let me say this, they're going to turn this system of white supremacy is going to turn them into a Negro or a nigger. Period.
True. I mean, that's
this the and it's how, and so you want you don't want your child to be a Negro, bootlicking race neutral Negro, Tommen. We don't want him to be a urban terrorist. What do we do, man?
Well, I think what we have to do is go for the other option. Brother Lance Williams came up with a paradigm, so to speak, in terms of looking at black behavior in this country. Basically, there are three different models that he looks at, and forgive me, Brother Lance, if I don't tell this exactly right, but basically, he has what he calls the traditional model that is designed to produce useless, brainwashed Negroes. Then you have the marginalized model that is designed to produce N-words, 50 Cents and Lil Wayne's and buffoonery. And buffoonery, right?
Yeah, buffoonery. Yeah.
Right. But then there's a third model, what he calls the African-centered model, that is designed to produce those strong, conscious black men who embrace their community, who embrace the whole idea of family, and embrace their women as their partners and their mates, as opposed to B's and H's and all this kind of so forth. So that other model does exist. I mean, you can look at individuals. In other words, do a side by side comparison of the videos that like Common puts out versus Lil Wayne or 50 Cent or something. There's a dramatic difference, but it's like if you're talking about something that's serious, if you're talking about something that is wholesome, if you're talking about something that is life affirming, you don't get no play. Now, if you're talking about selling drugs, killing people, raping women, that kind of stuff, oh Lord, you can get all the record contracts you want. So, we need to be able to focus in on developing the kind of people that we want. Basically, what we need is a 20-year plan. We need to sit up. The adults in our community need to sit down and say, how do we want our community to look 20 years from now? And once they come up with that vision, then they need to structure what it is that we need, what institutions do we need to develop to produce the kind of people who are going to be the kind of people we need to be 20 years from now, and go for it. All right? We need to stop playing and get serious, otherwise we ain't going to be around for much longer. Genocide is what it is, and very quickly is the attempt to destroy any group of people in whole or in part, any national, racial, ethnic, or religious group, such as A, killing members of the group, B, causing bodily and mental harm to members of the group, C, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about their physical destruction in whole or in part, D, using measures intended to prevent births within the group, and E, forcibly transferring children from the entire group to another group. My question to you is, does that definition fit the current condition of black people, yes or no? If the answer is yes, then racism is still alive and well.